Hello, I'm Alexis, and thank you for joining the GracePoint online experience. We hope this message inspires you, hope it helps you build your faith, and draws you closer to Jesus. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the message.
Hey, my wife made me get a haircut before I could preach to you guys, so I'm dealing with all of that right now. There we go. There we go. Thank you for that pathetic clap right there. That was great. It was great. All right. This is going to be a good morning. Welcome here, guys. Welcome here. Right now, we are in the middle of the Fixer Upper series here at church, where we're looking at the HGTV shows about fixing up your house and your properties, and we're applying that to how we can fix up our lives. So if this is your first time, go back and listen to the sermons in the series. Incredibly practical advice to help you kind of fix your relationships, right? Your relationships. Now, I got to make a confession here. Before I was asked to do this sermon, I never really watched HGTV, right? Some of you guys are like, is he even a Christian? I mean, he doesn't know Chip and Joanna, so how? I didn't really watch it, but so this sermon prep was a little different than normal sermon preps, right? I had to, look at the word and see what it says and study there, but also I had to study up on HGTV, right? And so I put one in, man, I just went back to the 80s there, didn't I? Like a tape, put one in. So I dialed one up on my computer, and I watched this thing, and I was thinking yeah, I'll watch one, and I'll kind of figure it out, and all of a sudden something happened, and pretty soon I'd watch 6 episodes straight. I still don't know what happened those 3 hours. I got no idea. That's the first time I've experienced time travel. And so, yes, HGTV, I'm super excited to be giving this sermon. I'm not so excited about the severe addiction that I've developed for these things. So the episode or the TV show that I was given was Property Brothers, right? Property Brothers. Anybody here watch Property Brothers? Anybody seen this thing? Okay. Wow, man! I see that hand. So the Property Brothers. So the sermon today is called Property Brothers and Sisters. You see what we did there, and so this whole show, for you guys who don't know, is kind of hinges off these 2 brothers who are stupidly good looking, right? Okay, and they're twins. Right? And one of them's a contractor and the other one's a real estate agent. And they go out and they find a property that's a mess, and they get it pretty cheap. And then, so the one brother who's the real estate agent, he goes and gets the property. The other brother, he's responsible for fixing it up. But the whole show, for me, hinges on this moment that happens right in the middle of the show. And it happens right in the middle. It's this sort of meeting they have. They've seen the new house. They have the shock of man, how is this place ever going to be nice? And the one brother takes his computer and kind of just does a redesign of the house, completely remodels it on the computer beforehand and shows them the remodel, says, this is what we are dreaming for your house. And of course, they spend the rest of the episode sort of fixing it up and kind of delivering on those things, right? That meeting that they have, I related to that. Not because anybody's ever commissioned me to remodel their house, right? That's not something I'm going to be doing. But because I've had other meetings that weren't fix my house meetings, they were fix my kid meetings. Fix my kid meetings. Some of you guys just grunted like, he's talking about me, you know. I'm sorry about this. And today, just so you guys know, I'm gonna be talking to parents quite a bit today. But we all know parents, and some of us are going to become parents someday. Some of you guys are like, my kids are growing, they're out of the house. You guys are gonna become grandparents someday. So I think this can relate to anybody. But I will be talking specifically to parents a lot today, right? But yeah, I've had these meetings, these fix my kid meetings, right? And when I was watching the show, I was kind of like, what if I did it the way the Property Brothers do it, you know? You come to me with all the problems with your kid, right? And as you're talking to me, I'm just like vigorously like typing on my computer and clicking away and building your perfect kid here, right? Like, and you're like, well, I don't like his attitude, or I don't like that she talks back. I don't like the clothes. I don't like her friends that she has. I don't like these things that are going on in my kid's life. And I'm like, I'm going to help you out. And then all of a sudden, like at the end of the meeting, after you've told me everything, I flip around the computer screen and there's this obviously photoshopped picture of your kid, right? Right? The frown's been turned upside down. They're hanging out with really cool looking, good, influential people. They got nice clothes on, right? And there's like a speech bubble coming out of their mouth, and they're saying something super Christian, like modest is the hottest, or something along those lines. And you look at that and you go, that's my dream kid right there. And I'm like, great, give me 2 weeks, right? Like, give me 2 weeks, and I just kind of spend time, and then I deliver this kid to you, you know, who's like, he looks like Kirk Cameron with better theology, right? Like, that's what I do, right? And then you're like, thank you. You know, first of all, like, obviously it's not realistic, right? If I could do that, I would be on Oprah, and I would be like writing books and selling books. I have like my own jet if I was capable of those things. Maybe I missed my call in life, actually. I want us to be, as a youth pastor, I've spent the last 13 years of my life advocating for teenagers. I've built youth ministries. I pride myself, you know, good pride, not the bad one. I pride myself on making a space for students to come where they can meet, know, and follow Jesus. That's what I do. But I want us to be realistic about this fix my kid mentality. Fix my kid mentality. And I want to say this to you guys. Your kids don't need a behavioral remodel. They need you to be a role model. Ooh. Some of you guys just heard it, right? Like, shots fired. There's a rock just came right at you, you know, like that. And I want you guys to hear my heart, because I don't want to be throwing rocks at parents, because I love parents and I am a parent, right? I am a parent. But I think we need to be realistic about the responsibility we have towards our own students, towards our own kids' discipleship and growing them up in the Lord, right? And so I want to just show you guys this thing right here, and this is it, right? This is the average Christian student's time spent per year, right? The average Christian student's time spent per year. We'll start with church, right? Church, youth group, where I'm at, right? They spend about 100 hours here per year. And it's like, that's a lot of hours, right? Like, that's a lot of hours they get to do. If you send them to camp, it goes up to like 170 hours. That's why you should send them to camp. But this is a good amount of time until you realize, like, the other places they're spending time. And then you look at school. School's more than 10 times that amount of time, right? Almost 1,200 hours they're spending at school. But that's still not the most time spent. The most time they spend is with you. 2,900 hours, right? 2,900 hours. For you analytical people, it looks kind of like this. This is my job, right here. Right? And this is your job right here. Right here. Right here. Guys, we are the primary parents. This is not just as the youth pastor talking, but as a parent myself. We are the primary disciplers in our kids' life. If you miss that, your kids will miss out on discipleship from you in a great, great way, right? So today, what I want to do is I want to spend some time in the text. And we're going to be in Philippians chapter 4, and we're going to look at verses 8 and 9 today. So if you have a Bible or a Bible app, go ahead and start turning there. And that's Philippians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. Verses 8 and 9. And before we jump in there, I want to just point out a little spot in the text that's kind of the key for us to understand sort of what's going on in this text. The first thing Paul does is he lists a bunch of things. And Paul, the author of this New Testament book, he loves to make lists. That's kind of his thing. He does this kind of a lot. And he usually tells us what he wants us to do with that list, either at the front half of it, either before he says the list, or afterwards. In this case, he says it afterwards. And that's why we're starting here. He's saying, think about these things. He's calling us to have a thought process around these things. And so today's sermon, today's message, what I'm going to be calling you to do, parents, and calling myself to do along the way, is to have thoughtful discussions with our kids and to teach our kids not just to do, but to think about things, right? To think about things. So that's right in the middle there, but we're going to go right to the top there. So if you look at verse 8 right at the beginning, it says this: finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right. If you have a highlighter or a pencil or your app, you can click on it. Click on those three words: true, noble, and right. I think those three words that you see on the screen, the red words on the screen here, I think those three words point to another thing called character. They're called character. And so what I want to suggest to you guys is this: teach your kids to think about character. Teach your kids to think about character. I'm guilty of this too. I tend to see the bad behavior and I focus in on the bad behavior. Like I zoom in on that bad behavior. This is the thing that you're doing wrong. This is the thing you're bugging me with. If you just fix this outward action, we'd have no problem. The Bible doesn't teach us to just go out and just tell people not to do the bad things that they're doing. It goes to the heart of the issue. And the heart of the issue is, where is this behavior coming from? Because both good behavior and bad behavior comes from somewhere. And I would like to suggest that that place is character. That place is character. Parents, we've got to focus on character. Because if we focus on teaching our kids about character, the behavior will come. But if we focus on the behavior, we might fix the behavior and end up with a bankrupt character underneath. People can do all sorts of good things for the wrong reasons. Obligation, discipline, guilt. We can do all sorts of good things for the wrong reason. We want our kids to be people of character. You guys ready for a story? All right. When I was in high school, right? I was in high school. I was in my junior year of high school. And I was in this class during my sixth period, right? Which was geology, which that's not my thing, right? Some people are like, geology rocks. And I'm like, stop with the puns, right? You know, like, geology was not my thing. It was just definitely not my thing. And so every day, pretty much, I would go into that class, and I'd end up falling asleep on my desk, right? And so it just ended up being a habit and a ritual. The teacher would wake me up, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. But then I started to plan for it, right? I took one of those couch cushions, and I put it in the little spot in my backpack, you know, that little pocket, you know, the top backpack. Put my backpack on my desk and lay my head on my pillow, right? And fall asleep right there in my class, right? I had just completely just given into this behavior, right? And the teacher, I thought, had kind of given up too. Like, I thought I'd kind of broken the teacher. Until one day, the teacher, while I'm fast asleep on my backpack, he tells the class, he whispers to them, I don't know, this is what I was told later, hey guys, can we just all sneak out of the classroom and leave Mr. McConaughey to sleep here, because he's obviously tired? They all get up, they all leave, they all do it super quietly. It's sixth period, which is the last period of the day in my school, and I slept till 5:30 p.m. I got woke up by the janitor. Hey kid, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. wake up, my backpack is completely wet from drool, right? Like I completely just like, oh, what is happening? Like sticky notes stuck to my face. Like, what time is it? I missed my bus, And I'm walking through the school, and it's like the apocalypse has happened, right? There's no one there. I'm like, what's going on here? What's happening here? I had to call, and the next day I went back to my teacher. I was like, what was that about? I missed my bus. It was messed up, man. Like offended, right? And he said something to me that cut right through the behavior and right into my character. And he said, I figured since you needed so much sleep during my time, that maybe you needed some more sleep on your time. Right? We don't think about it like that. I didn't think about that it was his time. I didn't think about that me falling asleep on my desk was actually scoffing at his life work. I was just tired, right? And when he said that to me, it cut right past the behavior and right into the character, right? And I realized that it was me. It was me who was the problem in this situation. Now, I never learned to love geology, but I stayed awake in every geology class from that day going forward. Why? Because character matters. We should teach our kids to think about character. Now, here's a really practical way to do that. Memorize this verse as a family. Memorize this verse as a family. Barry talks about having a family verse. He talks about having a family verse that's sort of your family's motto, right? This is a good one to have. Because this verse, if they haven't already memorized it in children's church, you guys should memorize it as a family. But it's all about character, right? It's all about character. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, there's no law. Guys, memorize this and make this the common language in your family. Make this the common language in your family. And ask your kids to call you to these things as you call them to these things. Make this the common language, right? Instead of just like, hey, no back talk. I'm done with this back talk. Instead being like, hey guys, you guys know our verse, right? It talks about self-control in our verse. And I think that we could have a little more self-control with our language when we're talking about those things. You got that one kid who's, they're always ready before all the other kids, right? And they kind of have a bad attitude about it. They have just a terrible attitude. It's like, I'm already ready and all that thing. And then you look at them, and instead of saying, hey, stop with the drama, you could look at them and say, you know what? I think this is a great opportunity for you to show some patience to the rest of your family. Because, hey, that's what we're about in this family. You guys, you know the verse. You know the verses, and we don't use it as a club, guys. Some parents, we memorize verses just to spit at our kids, to use them as club because they're like disciplinary devices, right? That's the wrong thing to do. What we want to do is build conversation and language around what the Scripture is telling us to be so that our kids call us to these things as well. So that when they see us acting out of turn, when they see us not being kind, they say, Dad, I think the way you're talking to Mom isn't very kind. And together as a family, you develop character. And character lasts. Let's jump back into the text here, guys. It says this in Philippians 4:8, part B. Whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, and whatever is admirable. Pure, lovely, and admirable. Again, circle that in your text, click it, whatever you got to do, highlight it. Those three words are super important here. And I think what the Scripture is teaching us here is this: teach your kids to think about what/who they are attracted to. Attraction is a really, really big deal. Every parent knows this, right? And we're all paranoid about who our friends are going to hang out with and what kind of things they're going to be into, right? If your kid's on Instagram, in order to like something on Instagram, you don't like it like you like on Facebook. You give a heart to it, right? Parents, you should know what your kids are giving their hearts to on Instagram. You should know those things. And not so you can club them with it, but so that you can have conversations, so you can get to know who they are, so you can help navigate whether these are good or bad things to be attracted to. Because we know that attraction is both good and bad, that it can lead to really great places in life and it can lead to really messed up situations in life. And so we don't need to just tell our kids, hey, don't go down that road, stop doing that, don't do that. We need to have a conversation with them about what is that road and what it leads to. And how an attraction to a certain activity can lead to really dark places. We need to have those conversations with our kids, right? Because who they give their hearts to ultimately becomes who they are. Who they give their hearts to is ultimately who they become, right? One of the biggest lies that's being taught to our kids daily by society is that they are what they desire. Their identity is tied up in instinct. What they're attracted to ultimately is who they are. And we know, guys, we know that the things we like as we grow up, they tend to change, right? Every thinking human being, we all know that the things we liked as children aren't the things that we like as adults. I know this because I tried SpaghettiOs as an adult the other day. Oh my gosh, that stuff's gross. But when I was a kid, I was like, man, I can't get enough. Grandma, give me some more SpaghettiOs. Crack those things open. I'm all about them. And then as an adult, I was like, what was I thinking? Was I stupid? And the answer was yes, right? The answer was yes. Because kids are attracted to things that they aren't going to be attracted. That's a part of growing up. Help your kids to grow up, right? See what they like, see what they're giving their hearts to, and help guide them through conversations with each other, guys, right? We aren't, this is the other lie, that we're just a smarter version of an animal, right? That we're just all kind of just chasing our noses here, right? You guys ever come into a contact with a hound dog? Anybody here ever owned a hound dog or known a hound dog? Man, there's way more people who watch Property Brothers than have had hound dogs in this thing. Well, hound dogs are kind of a different breed of dog. And the whole thing that they are is they got a really good sniffer. They smell. That's why they use them for hunting and stuff like that. And what a hound dog does is you got to kind of put a fence around a hound dog, because a hound dog, if you don't fence it in, it will literally just follow its nose wherever it leads. Right? It will get. My aunt had one. Right? And it would get out, and they wouldn't be able to find it, and then it would go find a skunk, and then it would get hit by a skunk. Right? And the thing is, no matter what, no matter how many times it happened, it would still go find that stinking skunk, right? It's like, oh, what's that smell? What's that smell? Oh, there's the skunk again. Awesome. Oh, dang it, I'm going home now. That's, it just chases its nose, right? We had a mom bring a basset hound to camp, which is like a lowrider dog, right? That's what it is. But it's a hound dog, right? And once a day, that dang hound dog would get lost following its nose somewhere into the woods. And it became a part of camp, let's go find Smokey, because he keeps following his nose wherever it leads. We are not animals, people. That's not what we are. One of the greatest gifts that we get from God is the opportunity to have instincts and say no. In fact, that's ultimately what freedom is. We think freedom is being able to do whatever we want to do. Actually, it's knowing that we can say no to ourselves and to our desires. That's what freedom is right there, guys. Do not let your kids buy into a bankrupt philosophy that they are what they desire. God looks at them and says, you are so much more than what you like. You are so much more than the things that you're giving your hearts to on Instagram. You are so much more than all of the other creations I made. You are mine. And because you are mine, you can choose. You can choose the things in which you are attracted to. As people wouldn't do drugs if there wasn't an attraction to them of some kind. What we are attracted to doesn't always lead to great places. Parents, have these discussions. Next part of the verse says this: if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, and there's that verse again, think about such things, right? If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, if you got your Bibles, click excellent, click praiseworthy, circle it, do whatever you need to do so you remember these two words. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy. And what I see here is this, guys. Teach your kids to think about worthiness. Teach your kids to, you don't hear this word very much anymore, do you? Teach your kids to think about worthiness. And I love worthiness because it's got that word built right into it, worth, right? On a very basic level, your kids should know what things are worth. They should know what $1 is worth. They should know what a hard day's work is worth. They should know what their time is worth. They should know what your time is worth, right? They should know what talents and gifts that they have and what those are worth to things. They should know which talents and gifts aren't worth very much in life so they don't have to spend their lives kind of giving themselves to something that doesn't matter. I love that quote. It's by Francis Chan. It says, "My biggest fear isn't that my kids won't be good at things. My biggest fear is that my kids will be good at things that do not matter." Because we can get lost in this stuff. We got to teach our kids what worth is. And so that they can move into this place of worthiness. They can move into this place of worthiness, right? I used to say it all the time. I used to say this phrase, and I love this phrase. Be a part of something bigger than yourself. Be a part of something bigger than yourself. And as much as I loved it, because it's the one submitting to the many and then accomplishing big things, I think that there's a side of that statement, a side of that phrase that just sets the bar too low. Be a part of something bigger than yourself. Well, you can join the Y and be a part of something bigger than yourself. Like you can have a hot yoga's group that also does dance crew on the side, and then congratulations, you're a part of something bigger than yourself, right? You want the thing that you're a part of to be worth it, to be worth your time, to be worth your effort. And here's the other thing is, once you've chosen something that is worth your time, what you need to do is then become worthy of that thing. Become worthy of that thing. So a better phrase is not be a part of something bigger than yourself. It's be worthy of something bigger than yourself. Today's Memorial Day. This is Memorial Day weekend. That's exactly what we're celebrating. Those who gave themselves, those who found themselves to be worthy of something bigger themselves, and then gave us their worth. And so we get to benefit from that thing, right? Be worthy of something bigger than yourself. 3 questions you should ask your kids all the time, over and over again. Keep asking your kids. People say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Nope, that's the definition of parenting right there, okay? That's the definition of parenting right there. But three things you should ask your kids about worth. First of all, you should ask them, hey, where are you getting your worth here? Where are you finding your worth at here? Because there's good, like attraction, there's good and bad places to find worth. Family is a pretty good place to find worth. Work, hard day's work, that's a pretty good place to find worth at, right? Friends can kind of go either way, Friends can kind of go either way. Likes on Facebook? No. Hearts on Instagram? No. Those are not places where you should find your worth. But the best place, and we know this, the best place to find our worth is in what God says about us. The truth is we're not worthy. But God, our good, good Father, says you are worthy because I've called you my own, because I've bought you with a price. You are my child. Act like my child. You are not just a smarter version of an animal. I've given you my image. I've given you my image, which is a blessing, and it's your job to take my image, to take my imago Dei, to take me to the whole earth. Why? Because you're mine, because you're the pinnacle, because I put every other thing in creation under you. You think you're worth it? Absolutely you're worth it. That's where we find worth at. That's where your kids should find worth at. And if you, parents, aren't finding your worth in God, it's going to be obvious to them. Find your worth in God. Find your worth in who God says you are. The next question you got to ask before they do anything stupid, is it worth it? Right? Is it worth it? Right? So they're about to make a decision. Is it worth it? The third question is just like it, but it's after they've done something stupid. Was it worth it? right? Was it worth it? Make worth a part of your family's language so that we would be found worthy when this thing is all over, guys, when this thing is all over. As a pastor, and as a pastor for 13 years now, I've probably gone to more funerals than most people my age have. I've gone to just a ton of funerals because at churches, that's where these things happen at. And I can tell you there's two different emotions you walk away from funerals with. One is hopelessness, but some funerals you walk away with hope. Hopelessness is sometimes, I've been to funerals where it's crazy, where the family can't get anything together because they're feuding with each other, because there's tension, because there's not freedom there, because it's unexpected, because people deal with tragedy in different ways, but there's obviously brokenness in this. I've been to funerals where they had an open mic and nobody came up and said anything about the person. I mean, you walk away from these things, even if you don't know the person that well, and you go, man, that's hopelessness there. But I've been to other funerals where a person lived a life on purpose, where they lived a life that was worthy, that they had character, and they controlled themselves, and they spoke with discernment, and they were life-giving individuals. And even up into the point of death, they helped their family mourn their passing. They had like everything worked out before they even died, right? Like all of the ideas of what the funeral should be, it's already worked out. And in that way, the person who's gone is the person who's leading the grief for the person who's gone. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And then it just leaves the freedom for everyone to come forward and just share stories about how awesome and incredible and life-giving these things were. Guys, I walked away from those funerals thinking, man, someday I want to be worthy of a memorial like that. Let's live a life on purpose so that we can be worth that. Verse 9 says this: whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice. Put into practice. This is the idea of being a role model, not just looking to remodel someone. Put into practice. Whatever you've seen in me, put into practice, and then the God of peace will be with you. Every single point so far this morning has been teach your kids, teach your kids, teach your kids. But guess what, parents? It is not our primary responsibility to teach only our kids. That's not our primary responsibility. Our primary responsibility isn't just to teach, it's to model. Don't just teach, model. Don't just teach, model. When I think about this, I think of my grandma. My grandma was an incredible lady. She was a teacher for 40 years for special needs, the same school, same district. She taught like most of the population of Wyoming how to read, right? Hey, some of you guys, you figured that one out. Right. My grandma was a woman who loved a good story. And she taught us from a really young age to tell stories because stories matter. I remember walking around a park with my grandma, and all of a sudden there'd be a noise from the creek there, right? Because, creeks make crazy noises, right? And I'd be like, what was that? And instead of telling me, that's a cricket or that's a bullfrog or whatever, she would look at me and she goes, what do you think that was? And I would come up with some crazy kid answer, Like, and my grandma would be like, yeah, what do you think that kind of animal does, right? And I'd be like, well, that animal does this and this and this and this. And what she was doing was not like teaching me how to lie. What she was doing was she was opening my mind, right? She was opening my mind and teaching me how to be somebody who could weave together stories, have somebody who could be a person. And my grandma just lived a life on purpose. She lived integrity in front of us. She didn't just bash us when we did things that were wrong. She had conversations with us constantly. And so, guys, this last little section here, as we close, these are five things that I've learned, mostly from people like my grandma, about raising kids, Again, like I said, I'm a parent, so I'm speaking as a parent here. Guys, you want your kids to respect their teachers, then you respect their teachers. When I was young, and the teacher would call my dad or call my dad in, my dad's first question was to me, what did you do, right? What did you do? I fear that in this generation, when teachers call parents, parents don't look to their kids, but they look to the teacher and they say, what did you do? Guys, if we don't respect our kids' teachers, they won't respect their teachers. And they will have a bad experience at school. They will have a hard life. Right? Next one is this. You want your kids to love you as a parent, then model that love to your spouse. Nothing teaches kids how to disrespect their parents than when mother and father are disrespecting each other on a constant basis. You want your kids to love you, then show them how to love you by loving your spouse well. Next one is this. You want your kids to dream big and take big steps and take steps towards their big goals, then you dream big for your family. I think sometimes we just stop, right? I got the kids, I got the mortgage, I got the career, so I'm just gonna, we're just kind of in autopilot mode until these kids, until we can start going on cruises after the kids are out of the house, right? No. Dream big for your family. Go on family adventures. Teach your kids how to dream because your family's dreaming together. Go get one of those big water tank things and start putting coins in it and say, this is our family's vacation fund. And have them put money in it too. And then when it's filled up with the right amount, you go on a vacation together. Why? Because you've learned to dream big as a family. Next is this, guys. You want your kids to prioritize a relationship with God, then don't let extracurricular activities outrank church. Youth pastor just said it. Man, some of us, man, we're not parents, we're chauffeurs. We're just taking a kid from this place, to this recital, to this sporting event, to this play, to this band. And we're sitting here thinking like, this is what our kids, these are the most important things our kids can do. Guys, extra is built right into the word here. It's extracurricular activities, right? I can't roll my eyes hard enough when I hear a kid talk about their sports career. No. Until someone starts paying you to kick a football or hit a baseball, you don't have a career, all right? You know? How come our kids don't even think about their real careers and what there ought to be in there, but they have the language about career when it comes to music and sports and extracurricular activities? No, those are extra. And if you let your kids miss out on what the church and what the youth group are doing because they've got other things going on, you've taught them that those other things are priorities over their relationship with God. Maybe you don't think that. Maybe you don't want your kids to think those things, but that's what you are modeling to them if you do that. I don't care if you have practice tonight. It's church night, I don't care if you got that tournament on Sunday. We go to church on Sunday as a family, And the last one is this. You want your kids to be happy. That's what we all want, right? I want my kids to be happy. Then you have to choose joy. You have to choose joy. How are your kids going to be happy when they see you unhappy? How are your kids going to be happy when they see you on a regular basis zoning out? When they're talking to you, you're somewhere else, dreaming about something else. Every day that you get with your kids, parents, is a day that that day is the last day they're going to be that small. Your kids today, when you pick them up from kids' church, this is the last day they're going to be that small. Enjoy it. Bring joy to that relationship. Choose joy in that relationship. Smile. Have fun. And in doing so, you won't look to remodel your kids, but you'll look to be a role model for your kids. Let's pray. Jesus, We thank you that you are a good, good Father. And I just ask, God, there's people in this room who are hurting right now. They're just hurting because they feel like they've lost some sort of thing with their kids. God, I pray that you, the God of redemption, would redeem family relationships. I pray for good conversations this week. I pray for tears and laughter and joy, and I pray that you would strengthen the families of our church because our parents decide to live a life on purpose. God, I pray that we wouldn't just be about behavior, but we'd be about character. God, I pray that we would care what our kids are giving their hearts to. And God, I pray that each and every one of us would be found worthy. God, you are good. Teach us to be good. We love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.